Welcome to the first installment of El Documentalista. On February 22, 1923, 100 years ago, Albert Einstein came to Spain for the first time. He had been invited to give a series of lectures, first in Barcelona and then in Madrid. This was the official program of the visit. However, the German genius also visited another Spanish city that was not initially planned, Zaragoza, where we are now. In the building behind me, the old Faculty of Medicine and Sciences, Einstein gave 2 lectures, and at the end of the second, a singular event occurred. The rector, Ricardo Royo Villanova, asked Einstein not to erase the blackboard he had used during his lecture, which was full of formulas and drawings, and asked him to sign it. He then solemnly declared that the blackboard would be kept so that future generations would always remember the historic visit of the great physics genius. And so it was done. The blackboard was removed and stored in a safe place, as the rector had requested. However, one day that blackboard disappeared, and the mystery of its whereabouts has remained until today. Where is Einstein's blackboard? Albert Einstein's visit to Spain in 1923 was a great social event. The newspapers were filled with articles and photographs, and Einstein received unprecedented attention. It was the first time a scientist was treated as a celebrity. All the great personalities of the time wanted to take photographs with him and attend his lectures. Almost no one understood a word, but that didn't matter much. The Spanish took it with humor.
Do you think there's anyone smarter than Einstein?
Yes, the one who understands him. One of the conditions that Einstein set before traveling to Spain was to always have a blackboard. There he would write his formulas and equations, which would help him be understood by a mostly unscientific audience. In Zaragoza, the lecture hall of the Faculty of Medicine and Sciences met this requirement. The hall had a beautiful blackboard. The first lecture in the capital of Aragon took place on March 11, 1923, the same day of his arrival in the city at 6 p.m. There was a total full house. The second, held the next day, was much less crowded. The organizers took the precaution of locking the door of the lecture hall once the talk began, to prevent the attendees from escaping. At the end of the lecture, the rector of the University of Zaragoza, the physician Ricardo Royo Villanova, announced it solemnly.
So that there's something permanent and constant from Einstein's visit to the university, I have asked the wise professor not to erase and to endorse with his signature the drawings made on the blackboards during the lecture. This will be appropriately fixed and preserved in order to show them to future generations as relics of today's date. Because the outline of your head, dressed in artistic hair and animated by the gaze of such luminous serenity, helps to understand. The university will keep as an imperishable memory those drawings that you have traced in your presentation. Let us believe that there is something infinite and absolute in time and space to accommodate the immense and permanent of our gratitude.
Eight years after Einstein's trip to Spain, on May 16, 1931, the scientist gave a lecture at the University of Oxford. The heads of the institution, whether inspired by the example of Zaragoza, also wanted to preserve the blackboard on which Einstein wrote his equations. In fact, there were two blackboards, but it is known that one of them was accidentally erased by an employee of the British University. The other has survived until today and is now displayed in its magnificent Museum of the History of Science. What happened with the blackboard from Zaragoza? No one knows. The chronicles of the time assure that it was carefully kept as ordered by the rector. But one day the blackboard disappeared. Or better said, it was no longer talked about. For the optimists, the blackboard could still be collecting dust in some remote basement of the university. For others, the transfer of the Faculty of Medicine in 1962 from the Paraninfo building to its current location in the university city motivated its disappearance. The blackboard would have been lost during the move. All these theories seem unlikely. The reality is probably much simpler and also more tragic. In 1923, Albert Einstein was a worldwide celebrity and was received in Spain with unanimous expressions of enthusiasm and admiration. The German scientist was invited by a group of Spanish scientists who were beginning to be recognized internationally. After almost a century of prostration, Spanish science was beginning to revive and society received scientific advances as the promise of a better world. However, that optimism did not last long. In Spain, political division, sharpened since the proclamation of the Second Republic in 1931, also reached science. Einstein and his theory of relativity lost support in scientific circles, especially in those of a conservative political trend. The former rector of the University of Zaragoza, Ricardo Royo Villanova, the same one who dedicated Einstein the highest praise and who asked that his blackboard be preserved as a relic during the 1923 visit, was no longer so obliging to the German scientist. On July 18, 1936, he published a revealing article entitled "The Crisis of Science." The date could not be more symbolic. The content was devastating.
Many scientists from various countries, and their number grows every day, now consider Einstein's famous theories as definitively failed. Einstein's system, from a strictly scientific point of view, is not valid. It is a strange mixture of metaphorical imagination, erroneous interpretations, unjustified experiences and hypotheses whose absurd conclusions have been disguised for some time, but are now becoming evident. The theory of relativity leads us back to the deep conviction that time and absolute space are constituted nothing more or less than by the infinite presence of God. Only God, who moves in a different way from us, can understand them.
The downfall of Albert Einstein in Spain did not stop there. The following year, in 1937, the physicist wrote to the Spanish embassy in Washington declaring himself a supporter of the Republican side in the Civil War that had erupted the previous year. If Einstein's scientific theories had already aroused suspicions among conservative political forces, his position in favor of the Spanish Republic earned him the contempt and hostility of the rebel military side. The final victory of General Franco and the dictatorship that began in 1939 will not only lead to the definitive discredit of Albert Einstein and his scientific theories in Spain, but will also mean the destruction of the Silver Age of Spanish science with the exile of its most brilliant representatives. Among them, some of those who received Einstein in 1923.
Arturo Duperel, Claudio Sánchez Albornoz, Ortega y Américo Cándido Bolívar, Rodríguez Antonio Maquinabe, Lorente de Novi, Enrique Mores, Manuel Pedro José Castillejo, José Ayuela, Puche Alba, José María García Vallecasa, José Luis Ángel.
The list is endless, a real bleeding that Spanish science never recovered from. Is anyone still doubting what happened to Einstein's Zaragoza blackboard? Almost certainly, the blackboard was discreetly destroyed, just as any glimpse of freedom of expression or thought in Spain for almost 40 years. What would happen in Zaragoza if the blackboard had been preserved? All tourists who arrived in the city would have as mandatory visits the Basílica del Pilar, Laseo, the Palace of the Aljafería, and Einstein's blackboard. In the main lecture hall of the Paraninfo building at the University of Zaragoza, a discreet plaque reminds us of the anniversary. This hall, 100 years ago, welcomed the most famous scientists of all time. And here ends the first installment of El Documentalista. We hope to make many more videos like this, and that's why, if you liked it, please subscribe to the channel, because there are many more stories to tell. Thank you for being there, and see you soon.